Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just going to give you a minute to all get in here and then we're going to get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marissa Greco. I'm a licensed financial planner. I am a certified divorce financial analyst and also a retirement specialist. And I've got my team here with me today. Angela, do you want to jump in and introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Angela Deaton. I'm also a certified divorce financial analyst and a certified divorce lending professional. So I've been a loan officer, mortgage loan officer for over 20 years. So I kind of started as a CDLP, doing a lot of things with divorcing clients and their homes, mortgages, buyouts, all the things, and then went to CDFA. And so here we are,
Yeah, and
ready
we've
to help
got
with, yeah.
We've got Lindsay and Elisa
Yep.
who are our right arm support. So Lindsay, just introduce yourself quick, and then Elisa.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I do all the admin stuff here, so when you get an email, might be from me. And I look forward to maybe working with some of you.
Hi, I'm Marissa's sister, Lisa, and I also do a lot of the admin work and a lot of the planning aspect of our clients' cases. And I am currently actively looking and getting my CDFA. So I'll be looking forward to working with all of you in the future. And my picture's not on because I'm on maternity leave, technically.
Yeah, her baby's a month old.
Aw.
All right, thanks, Lise. So, okay, if we look at the title of this and we see I didn't know equals I got nothing. We can't tell you time and time again how many women we see not dig into the numbers, not ask for the financial discovery, rely completely on their lawyer. And these things, when you don't know the ins and outs of the law, of finances, of what you're entitled to, can mean you really end up getting screwed in the end. And we've seen it, unfortunately, it happens. So tonight, we want to go over everything you really need to know about finances and getting a fair deal to make sure that you're prepared for your divorce. But before I get into that, if you could throw into the chat, what state are you from? So we understand how many states we have here with us. Angela and I help clients in all states, okay? Finances are the same whether you're in California or New Jersey. Obviously, the law is different, so you will need to get a lawyer that is state specific. But as far as us, we work in all different states. We actually have cases in all states as we speak.
Mhm.
So let us know in the chat if you can see the chat. We've got Virginia, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California, Pennsylvania, Canada.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so
we
we've
do
got a lot.
Canada.
Texas, that's where Angela is.
Mhm. Woohoo.
Maryland in the house. Hello. All right, great. And I also would love to know, where are you in the divorce process? Are you just starting to understand like what your rights are? Have you already filed? Are you near settlement and you're negotiating? Let us know in the chat, where are you in the process right now? Are you just beginning? Are you actively negotiating, or are you finishing up? We'd love to know just so we can tailor what we're going to talk about tonight for all of you.
Perfect.
Mediation,
A little bit of
financial
everything. Just
discovery,
considering.
negotiating, filed. Okay, a lot of you are actively in this process. So that's great. We're going to talk about a lot of things you need to know. So if you have
Yes.
pen, you have paper, write it down. We went through us already. Oh, somehow I just skipped all the way to the end. So we got to go all the way back. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. So like I said, we're actively negotiating 250 cases right now. Angela and I work with your lawyers. So we get on the phone with multiple lawyers a week and we're like, here's what you need to know from a financial perspective. Right before we got on this call, we were just on with a lawyer saying, here's what we found financially. And she was like, thank goodness you were on. Like, these are things I don't understand. Right. And
Mhm.
Angela, your famous saying is,
You don't know what you don't know.
yes.
That
And
one.
also, lawyers, though, know the law.
Oh yeah, that one too. I have a lot of famous sayings.
Lawyers
Yeah,
know the law, but we know finance, right? Like your lawyer
right.
doesn't have to get a finance degree. They don't need to know anything about finance. Sure, they're good enough to be dangerous, but they are not going to know the ins and outs of tax, of investments, how to split accounts, right? Angela and I take care of a lot of that for our clients, and then their lawyers take care of the law aspect. Just like if Angela and I were to look at a divorce settlement, I'm not going to do it as well as a lawyer is going to do it.
Right.
So we're actively negotiating to over 250 cases. These are just some testimonials we want to show you guys from clients that, basically saying like, I wouldn't have done this without you, right? Like I wouldn't have been able to provide the financial information that we needed, because I couldn't really rely on my lawyer. So that is
Hmm.
why we are in business, mainly because lawyers don't understand finance. We do, and we can bring a whole different perspective when you are negotiating your divorce. We can make sure that you get a deal that's going to actually work for you after the divorce, right? Your lawyer is going to drop you. We're going to keep going and working with you and make sure
Hmm.
you're getting where you need to get and you're hitting all your goals. Um, so I want you to understand that while you're going through this process, your spouse, I mean, not all spouses, there's some spouses who are very nice. I will say that. And they are looking after you and your best interest, but that is the small minority. The majority is counting on you to not know your numbers. The majority is counting on you to be too emotional and not in the finance details. The majority is counting on you just to trust them that it's fair. And if this is sounding, by the way, like your situation, let us know in the chat. They're counting
Hmm.
on you to not actually check the financial documents and not know what you're looking at. And then your
Hmm.
lawyer is got to end up filing motion after motion because you're not getting financial documents and you're in this spinning wheel cycle of just nothing, right? So we really help get involved with cases to push the case forward. I can't tell you how many cases are on their second, third year. We come in and we can get it done in a matter of months because we know what to do or what needs to happen to move this forward. Not that all lawyers are doing this, but you have to understand they're not so motivated for you to end this. The longer this goes
Right.
on, they keep getting paid, right? They get paid every email, they get paid every call, they get paid every motion, they get paid, to sit there in mediation 10 hours. Angela tried to work around that as much as possible to save you cost and time and get this done faster.
Right.
So a lot of people come to us and they're like, okay, what do I need to be thinking about, Marissa? So these are the main things I want you to zero in, okay? I talk to so many women, and so does Angela, who are caught up in the details, okay, of the smallest stuff. They're like, well, he spent 10 grand on this new woman in the Bahamas. I get that's terrible, but what about the $1 million 401k? What about the
Hmm.
$2 million home, right? So you need to focus on the main assets. What are those? Real estate, investment accounts like stock, bonds, and cash. If your spouse has a business, that could be involved, and we're going to get into that.
Hmm.
Personal property, if they have a lot of artwork, coins, those kinds of things. Cars can be a big one. And then outside of the finances, you have the parenting plan. Outside of these main categories, you have to understand that it's minimal. Whatever you're going to be asking for is going to be minimal. And you need to focus on these the most. Okay, this eye on the prize. Eye on the prize. What are the biggest assets, right? And how are we going to
Right.
negotiate them? So there's financial elements to your divorce settlement and there's non-financial elements. The lawyer is going to help you with the non-financial elements. They're going to help you with custody arrangements. They're going to help you with visitation schedules. They're going to help you get your personal belongings, right? Angela and I, though, where we come in is helping you with all the assets, understanding what you own, what they're worth, all the debts, right? And then overall, how is this going to work out for you in the long run between those assets and debts? And what is your income? And what is
Hmm.
their income? And are you asking for enough alimony? Are you asking for enough child support? Are you going to be able to live? These are all questions that Angela and I are asking. What are the first people come to me and they're like, Marissa, what are the first things I should do? Gather documentation. You need to gather documents. Our clients specifically, we have like this whole Trello board. It tells them exactly what we need them to collect. They're going to have to give that to their lawyer anyway. If you don't gather the documentation, you're going to be really unorganized and your lawyer is going to charge you more. And then they're going to look through the documentation instead of us and charge you a lot more than we're going to charge you to look through
Right.
it.
They charge you per hour and they don't even understand what they're looking at
Well, yeah,
sometimes.
and that's the other thing. They also don't understand what they're looking at, right? Because they don't have a
Right.
finance degree. So a lot of our clients hire us, say, Marissa, look at this 1,000 pages, condense it, spit it back to me in plain words. What do I have? Right? The next kind of component you need to understand is an asset marital or separate? It's marital if it was earned during the marriage. It's separate if you had it previous to marriage in your name and you've kept it separate in your name the entire time. Angela, you want to go through your example you just had of this?
Yes. So, for example, I had a client recently in mediation. Both her and her husband had 401ks prior to their marriage. And so the question was, what part of that 401k was separate property and what part is marital? Because they both contributed after they were married. So for me, I did her separate property and then I attributed the growth. Same growth percentage that the 401k had grown. I did the growth on her separate property as well as her separate property amount, did a calculation, gave it to the mediator. Mediator's like, great. She goes, well, how come your client has a separate property amount with growth and his just has separate property amount? Are you going to do that for him? And I was like, no, he's not my client. I'm only doing it for my client. And she was like, fair enough. You should have done that. So in the end, my client ended up with over $50,000 more because his side did not do growth on his separate property. So the whole point of that is separate property, the burden of proof is on the person who says it's their separate property. So if you are married and your husband says, I had a 401k that had $1 million on it the day we got married, and you say, okay, we need the statement for $1 million. If he can't produce it, the courts are going to use current value. So the burden of proof is on him, not you. So just keep in mind always with separate property, if someone is claiming separate property, we see financial affidavits all the time, separate, 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 separate. They have to prove that. So where we come in is we can provide a report to share with a mediator, a judge, an attorney that's going to detail out exactly what your separate property calculation is, not just the number that was there the day you got married.
And I had a situation too where I had a client, they were doing a collaborative divorce. So it's supposed to be open and honest and, as she said, kumbaya. But it was far from that. And he was actually lying to her. He was telling her, "Oh, I have 500K, this 401k is separate property." Turns out none of it is. He can't give a statement over. There's no evidence. And then lawyers never thought once to like look at this, right? So
Mhm.
this is again why we need, when you're going back to the numbers and you're going back to the evidence, it can add in thousands of dollars in your case if you have the right people on your team knowing what to look for.
Yes.
Going into that, the right numbers, let's talk about appraisals. Angela here, I'll let you jump in there.
Do not, if one more person sends me a Z estimate, I'm going to shoot myself. Like, you cannot, Zillow estimates, the Z estimate, people all the time. My husband said our house is worth $2 million. Here's the Z estimate. That's crap. It's not worth anything. Neither is, now, it's a reference. It's something you can use to kind of guesstimate your value. So is a CMA from a real estate agent. If you know a real estate agent and they give you a competitive market analysis, that could be kind of a good idea. But in the end, if you are going to divide up equity and you are going to figure out what one person is going to get out of a home, you need a professional, third party, neutral appraisal. And that is done by a professional appraiser who's picked neutrally between the parties and does a report. And then you take the mortgage amount less the appraisal amount, and that's what the equity is that's going to be split. You're not going to be using Z estimates or CMAs or things like that. So that's really important with appraisals.
Yep. And then looking at the value of debt and liabilities, you're looking for statements, right? You're looking for your spouse's credit cards. Angela and I's tip is to get a credit score if you can from your spouse. No, you cannot run their credit report.
No, but I am going to give a little quick tip that has come up with several of my clients. If you and your spouse have a joint credit card, every credit card sends you things every once in a while. It's like your FICO has changed or your credit score has changed, and that. Every credit card, most of the big ones anyway, have a feature within your credit card when you log in that you can pull your credit report. Well, if it's a joint report, it's going to pull your spouse's too. So just saying, it's not pulling, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just pulling your own, but it's going to come with it because it's a joint
Yeah.
report. But yes, you cannot go on myfico.com and put in your husband's name and social and pull it, or you're going to get in trouble because it is a requirement that anytime something like that is done, they send a copy to the address. So joint credit report, okay. Otherwise, just ask your attorney. I'm going to provide a credit report. I want a credit report from him as well. That's going to tell you any credit cards he has, if you're a joint owner on any account, if you're an authorized user on any account, what accounts have been opened and closed throughout the past 10 years. It just gives a lot of information that can be helpful.
Yep. And then lastly, you kind of want to look at tax implications, which a lot of lawyers ignore. And that goes for the house, for the retirement, for the brokerage accounts. These are all things that you want to understand. If I take this asset, how much tax am I going to have to pay in the future to make sure this is a fair deal, right? So 500,000 in retirement is not the same 500,000 in a house, right? Because the retirement, every dollar is taxed at a higher tax bracket. Where the house, this is going to be capital gains and only the gains are potentially taxed. So these are things that we're bringing into the picture so that you understand if I take this asset, what do I need to be thinking about in the long run when it comes to tax? We just talked about marital and separate property, so I'm going to skip that. But I did see a good question. It was like, well, what happens if my name was put on something during the marriage? So a lot of times if something is commingled, meaning was
Mm-hmm.
single goes to joint, it tends to be a marital asset. Unless there's specific reasons or reasoning in certain states as to why that shouldn't be a joint asset. But a lot of times if your name's going on to something, it's gonna become marital. So if you want to keep
Correct.
something separate, keep it in your sole name.
100%. Okay, so we just talked about real estate appraisals. That again, pick a professional, third party, neutral appraisal, get a report. Don't rely on anything besides that, no matter, even if you think you agree with it, just get that to be sure. Personal property appraisals. Now, this can get a little crazy. Some things are easy, like a piece of artwork or jewelry. Sometimes those are easy to be appraised. We have seen, I don't know about you, Marissa, I see some of the craziest, like he
Mm-hmm.
has a $50,000 Star Wars collection. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to appraise a Star Wars collection or a trading card or this or that? So, what I've seen a lot of courts rely on or mediators is fair market value. And by that, I mean, you could go on, let's say, for example, eBay. Go on
Yep.
eBay and search for that Star Wars character person, whatever it is, or this specific
And
trading
see what
card.
it's selling
I,
for.
and see what it's selling for, which is a good indication of what is the fair market value of that item. So keep that in mind if there's something kind of wonky that is, that your person collects or whatever. I've had a lot of questions about guns, and I am
Mm.
going to be honest, I don't know a lot about that. I don't know. I think there's probably gun appraisers. I don't know. But I see that come up quite a bit. I have seen people say, check the market, but can you go on eBay and buy a gun? I don't know. So that's, but those are the things that get a little challenging. Houses are easy. Cars, I'm going to bring up cars real quick. Kelly Blue Book is what most courts and mediators are going to use.
Yep.
Get a Kelly Blue Book value with your mileage, the condition, et cetera. They're going to generally take that as the value.
Yep.
And then, okay, so that was on vehicle. Do you want to talk about financial portfolio, Marissa?
Yeah, I mean, the value of
The
investment
pension?
accounts, right, is just the statement. Now, you need to
Right.
understand in your case, are you working off a separation date or a current date? If you're using a separation date, you need all the statements to be on that separation date and take the value. If you're not using a separation date, then you would just take the current value of your cash, of your stocks, of the 401k, of the 403b, and that's the value there. But one area you need to look out for is pensions. Because on
Yes.
pensions, it can say, "Oh, this is worth 80,000," and then we figure out calculations really worth 500 grand. So you need to understand what you're doing with the pension. A lot of pensions, there's a further present value calculation that needs to be done to determine the real value. And Angela and I help do that for clients and provide the pension evaluations so that they can strongly negotiate. Now, it with pensions, you've got two choices, by the way. If your spouse has a pension, you can ask that they buy you out right now, or they pay you monthly in the future when they go to collect the pension. However, it is their choice. They don't have to buy you out. They could say, "No, we're waiting till retirement and you'll collect 50% of the marital benefit at that point." But just know that there are multiple ways to negotiate a pension and also multiple ways to come up with a value. So if your spouse has a pension, I definitely urge you to work with an expert. And by the way, your lawyer doesn't
100%.
know how to evaluate a pension.
No, it's never what's written on the statement. That is not the value of it. So you definitely want to get a pension evaluation done. And one question I've seen come up here, just to jump back to personal property for 1 second, is a lot of people are talking about engagement rings or things like
Mm.
that. Gifts are separate property. So across the board, a gift is your separate property. So, and by definition, an engagement ring is a gift. So do not put your engagement ring on your financial affidavit, or if you do, put that it's separate property because that is a gift. If you're so lucky that your spouse has given you bags or jewelry or whatever, that those are gifts. If they are gifts, they are separate property. So keep that in mind when you're doing your financial affidavit. All of that is not marital. And no, I gifted myself, which I hear a lot of men say that's not necessarily, that does not qualify as separate property if you gave a gift to yourself. That has to be given to you by someone else.
Yeah, and as far as we get a lot of questions on pension, so pension is
Mm-hmm.
different than 401k,
Huge.
pension is different than Social Security. If they're not giving over a pension statement or they don't think they have one, they need to call their company and have their company certify there's no pension for this
Right.
at this company, right? Because their pension belongs to wherever they're working. And what pension is it pays out in retirement. It pays you a monthly benefit on top of Social Security. So you can see if you miss the pension, you could be missing thousands of dollars, right? So
Exactly.
this is something you need to take seriously, you need to ask for, and then you need to calculate it properly and negotiate it properly.
Right. And people are asking, is a state retirement land like CalPERS or OPERS? Yes,
CalPERS,
those are
yep,
all pensions, and
yep.
those are always worth more than is on the statement. Those departments are always what you need to ask for with a pension is always a current pension statement or recent pension statement, as well as the summary plan, the pension summary plan or plan description. That is going to give all of the details of the pension, like is there a cost of living adjustment? What percentage are they using for per service hour? How are they calculating what the benefit is? All of those things. It's very detailed and is definitely not something that your attorney knows how to do. So if there is a pension involved, you definitely want to be working with a financial professional to help you evaluate it.
Yep, and military pensions, they've got military pension, but they've also got retirement called a TSP. They have
TSP.
both.
Mm-hmm.
Both, which a lot
Right.
of people forget to ask for.
They do.
And one more type of appraisal we'll just go over quick because I had this happen this week. Angela and I too are one of our clients.
Mm-hmm.
So our client got a business valuation. Her spouse owned a business, and she paid a forensic team 100 grand to go through and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, here's
Insane.
what this business is worth." And let's call it 1 million. I'm just making up numbers, but let's say they came back and they said it's a million. Well, her lawyer then comes back to us. We get on with her lawyer because we do that with all lawyers going into mediation. She gets on with us and she goes, "Well, we got to tax this in half at a 54% rate. And so the 1 million is really 420, and that's what I have to go in with to negotiate. I'm like, wait a second. I talked to some of my forensics. I talked to my business valuators. We relook at the business valuation. They already put a 40% tax on it. They already included tax. So then if
Mhm.
her lawyer was going to come in and throw a second tax for 54%, I mean, that's like a $500,000 mistake.
Yep.
And again, why you cannot rely on your lawyer for tax.
Right. And she was adamant. The attorney was
Oh,
adamant. She argued with
she was yelling at
Marissa.
Angela. We're like, we don't
She
think
was.
this is right.
This is
But
not right. Yeah.
yeah. And they might be adamant, so it's easy to believe them. But you're just completely
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah. Which, like she said, in that case, it would have been like a $400,000 mistake. So, okay, keep or sell the home. This is, like I said earlier, I have been a loan officer, mortgage loan officer for over 20 years. I've done mortgages. About 7 years ago, I got certified as a CDLP to do handle mortgages for divorcing clients, which then turned into a CDFA. But one of my specialties is helping people figure out, should you keep the home? Should you sell the home? If he's gonna keep the home, what's your buyout look like? If you're selling the home, how do you split the proceeds? How do you write it in the decree to make sure you're protected? I see mistakes written in decrees all the time
Mm-hmm.
about the mortgage and the family home because in most cases it is your biggest asset and it's most likely your biggest liability. So this is a lot of focus should go in to this specifically. So again, my caps do not rely on Zillow for the home value. If I, like I said, one more Z estimate, it makes me crazy. So option one, selling. Yes, selling is always the cleanest option, meaning there's not a lot of debate into what the value is. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be, you list it for sale. What it sells for is the value. Then you determine what liens are against it. What's the mortgage balance that's owed? That's subtracted. What closing costs? Subtracted. Realtor commission? Subtracted. What's the net equity? It's the net proceeds divided by two or whatever the division
Well, it is.
percentage is going to be. Yes.
Yep.
So obviously, yes, cleanest way. Nobody's on a mortgage anymore. Nobody's on a title anymore. The house is gone. Done deal. However, a lot of times one of the people are going to want to keep the home. So in that case, there's going to be a buyout most likely, unless there's just no equity in the home or they're going to address it in some other way. So if there's a buyout, there's a lot of different things, and I'm not going to get too detailed on this because there's so much to talk about. It would go on forever. But working with a CDLP like myself, I will tell you that I've had attorneys and even other loan officers that I know that are very good loan officers were like, I thought if you did a buyout, it had to be a cash out refinance. There are so many other ways to do it besides doing a cash out refinance because a cash out refinance has higher interest rate, higher fees, all the things. So I would say if you want to keep the house, you should talk to a CDLP. If it's not me, somebody like me who can help you work through what does this buyout actually look like and what's the best way for me to do this. Can I assume the loan? That's the first question you should always ask. And the way you find out the answer to that is call the servicer. Call the company to whom you make your payments and ask the question. I need to know if my loan is assumable. I'm going through a divorce. Can I assume this loan? Assuming a loan means that you get to keep the same interest rate, same loan amount, same mortgage exactly in place, and your spouse is removed from liability. So basically, you are keeping the exact same mortgage. They're just being removed from it, released of liability, and they're going to give up ownership in the house. And therefore, you get to keep, in most cases, a low interest rate if you have an interest rate below 6%, like 90% of the world does. If it's not assumable, then you're looking at, okay, I'm most likely going to have to refinance. If you're going to have to refinance, then again, what is that going to look like? Do I have to do a cash out refinance? If you're only going to need money to buy him out, you don't need to do a cash out. You could do just a rate term with a buyout feature, which those are things that a CDLP can help you with. So keep in mind, don't jump straight to a cash out refinance because you don't always have to do that. And then again, if you're not keeping the home, make sure you're removed from the mortgage. That is key. One of the biggest mistakes I see in divorce decrees is when an attorney will write in, husband is keeping the home, ex-wife will be refinanced or spouse will be refinanced off in 90 days. She will give up ownership on signing of the decree. Everybody's good. Wrong, 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 wrong. Do not ever give up ownership until you're paid out and you're refinanced off the loan, number one. Number two, that spouse needs to make sure he's approved for a refinance before you're going to sign anything. You need to be sure he's approved for the refinance and the buyout. Because what happens is a decree's filed, it's filed and it's recorded, and then 90 days later the husband says, "Oh shit, I can't be approved. I can't get approved for the refinance." So now spouse is stuck on the mortgage. There is no buyout. The decree's recorded, and the only way to undo it is to go back to court and file a
Mhm.
modification, which is costly and all the things. So I can't, like I said, warn people enough to make sure that mortgage piece is locked down tight by working with professionals. And your attorney, as good as they may be, one of my absolute closest friends is one of the best attorneys in my area. She told me she never knew that it didn't have to be a cash out refinance until we met and started working together. So no matter how good the attorney is, it's just not their expertise. You have to keep that in mind.
Yep.
Okay, so I kind of touched on some of this, but just a little more. Amount of equity due must be calculated and agreed upon. Again, neutral third party appraisal, subtract what's owed on the property. You can try and work in, if you're keeping the house, what the closing costs are going to be to refinance, ask for half of that to be removed. All different ways to address it, but that's a key part, is figuring out what the equity is. Then, is it going to be a cash out refinance? If you're going to assume the loan and you still need a buyout, you might have to do a home equity line of credit or a HELOC or a HELoan in second lien position to do that buyout. Another way is to do an ulti lien, which is what I was talking about earlier, a rate term, not a cash out refinance. So again, all this tells you this is a lot of verbiage and a lot of information spewing into 2 slides. But the key part of all this to know is, if you are dealing with a family home in any way except for to sell it, you want to be working with a professional. And even if you're selling it, details matter so much. You want to put in your decree the date it's going to be listed for sale, what the sales price is going to be listed at, what realtor you're going to use. If an offer comes in within 5% of the listing price, it will be accepted, this and that. All those details, because again, what you don't want is to have it listed and then one person can keep showings from happening, refuse every offer that comes in, all the things. So details matter so much when it comes to the family home. So always make sure, beyond your attorney, that you're working with professionals.
And Angela and I have a consulting package which we're gonna go over at the end and let you know everything's included. But they're asking Angela, do they have to pay you to
Oh
figure this
no.
out? Anyone who gets into our consulting, they can deal with me and we talk about finance, investments, taxes, all the things. And then you can also work with Angela to understand I can't tell you how many clients I pushed to her and I'm like, okay, can they get qualified for this mortgage? Can they get a
Mm-hmm.
pre-approval if they want to buy a new home? What are their options for buyout? And knowing this while you're going through the divorce is key. You do not want to be figuring this out on the backside. You are screwed. You might have
Right.
negotiated to take a house you can't even take, right?
Right.
So you need to do this during the divorce. And that comes in our consulting package, all this knowledge and options when it comes to the mortgage, just so you guys know.
Yes. All's included.
So we talked about the family home. Obviously, that's a huge aspect of negotiating. What are we going to do with the houses? The next aspect is investment accounts. And when you're thinking about the cash, the brokerage accounts, the stocks, the 403b, the 401k, you want to be thinking of, do I need liquidity? Meaning, is my income going to cover all my expenses? If not, I might want some cash. If I need to go buy a home, I might want some cash, right? So you want to be thinking about, do I want all the money tied up in a home or do I want some liquidity as well? Again, you want to understand the tax consequence of splitting accounts. If you split a 401k without a quadro, there is tax consequence and possible penalty. If you sell everything in a brokerage account just at whim without understanding the capital gains, there could be capital gains. If you sell a home without understanding your cost basis versus what it's being sold for, there could be capital gains. These are all things you need to work out while you're in the divorce process. You need to identify what is retirement and what is liquid, right? Retirement, again, is not the same as liquid. Retirement is taxed every single dollar. Cash and brokerage accounts are not. So, in my opinion, they're more gold a lot of the time because the tax is less and they're liquid. Compared to retirement accounts, they are tied up and every dollar is taxed. So I want you to keep liquidity in mind. I can't tell you, like I was on the phone call this morning with a woman. All of the money's in the house. And she's like, I want the house. I'm like, okay, but you're already in your retirement years. If all the money's in the house, how are we funding your retirement? We're not, right? So we need to understand the balance between how much should be tied up in a house. Can I afford this house? And then how much should be outside the house so that you can live the way you want to live. Um, and then when you are considering how do we break up the retirement accounts, Angela and I I've seen clients go 50-50, literally across 30 accounts, 50 accounts. I cannot tell you how hard it is to split 30-50 accounts in half. It is a nightmare. Every
And
account
expensive.
requires 20 to 30 pages of freaking paperwork. Okay, and it's confusing as heck.
Hmm.
And not to mention there can be extra costs. I had a client, their lawyer split the annuity. I told them, don't split the annuity. There can be extra charges. It's a pain. Don't do it. They do it anyway. And it turns out she owed 10K in surrender fees to take on that annuity, which she had to just eat because it wasn't in the decree that this could occur. Right?
Hmm.
So lawyers, again, don't know how to split accounts. They don't know the best way of splitting accounts. They don't know how to avoid the fees and all the things, but we do. And if you are going to split retirement, split IRAs and brokerage accounts instead of the 401ks because that requires a quadro. A quadro is a document saying this 401k can be split without tax or penalty. That takes 6 months and it also takes 3 grand. You're going to write it up. You're both going to sign off and then it's going to take a while to actually get the money split. So why go through all of that? Avoid the 401ks if you can and split other things.
Hmm. And Roth, talk for a second about Roth. I saw a couple questions on that, Marissa, how Roth is advantageous from a tax perspective.
Yeah, I mean Roth is tax free, right? So Roth money is gold too, essentially, because if you're
Hmm.
taking that, now you've got some liquidity that you can use, right? So cash, brokerage, Roth, that's where it's at. Obviously, it's good to have retirement dollars too, because the money's tax deferred, right? If it's growing, it's tax
Hmm.
deferred. It's just you got to be careful that you're not taking all the retirement and they're taking all the cash, because then you're getting screwed.
Right. Yeah. True. Okay, debt and divorce. So obviously, debt is accrued during the marriage. Typically, in most cases, regardless of whose name is on it, in some sort, it's marital debt. So, with the exception of student loans typically belong to the person that took it out, and those are considered separate. In most cases, I have seen exceptions to that. But other things like credit cards, things like that, even if you didn't know it existed, it is a lot of times considered marital debt. It does depend again on the situation. If you can prove that that card was used for nothing that did benefited the family, things like that, it might be looked at it different. But just understand that if it is created during the marriage, it is assumed to be marital debt unless it can be proved otherwise. So your best strategy is to make sure you always know about all of the debt, especially anything that's attached to your name, but that is why we always encourage at the beginning of the process, as you're doing discovery, and a lot of attorneys leave this off, ask for a credit report, a tri-merge credit report, which means it's going to pull all three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You want to have all three because sometimes different cards report to different bureaus. You want to have a tri-merge credit report from your spouse at the beginning, and you want another one near the end, before mediation or before your last hearing. You want to pull another one. You just want to be sure what debt is out there, what could potentially be attached to you. Is there any joint accounts you didn't know about? Some of the nightmare stories I could tell about clients who
Mm.
find out that they have debt, that they didn't even know about. So One of the biggest things that we preach, both of us, is I don't care if your spouse comes in and says, hey, as part of the divorce, I'm going to take all the debt. I'm going to take this big asset account, but then I'll take all the debt and I'm going to pay it off. Don't ever let someone else, if at all possible to avoid, take debt to pay off in your name. If your name is on it, you take that debt in the divorce and take the assets to offset it because you want to be sure you paid that off yourself. I had a case where a person or my client, unfortunately, against my advice, he said,
Hmm.
I'll take all the debt in the divorce. And I said, don't do that. Take extra assets and you take the debt, pay it off yourself. She's like, I just want to be debt free. I'm a stay home mom. I don't have a job. I don't want any debt. Back and forth. Anyway, 1 week after the divorce was final, he took about $70,000 worth of her debt, and he declared bankruptcy. Literally a week after the divorce decree was recorded. So her credit was trashed. None of that was paid off. He had the additional assets. Yes, she's
Hmm.
filing things to try and take him back, but that's just one example of what we see all the time. Keep your own debt in your name. In the divorce, take your debt, take the assets to offset it, and pay it off yourself. That is so much safer than relying on someone else who you are divorcing to do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
And student loans, by the
uh,
way,
yes.
99% of the time they're going to be separate.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that 1% chance that it got accrued during the marriage and maybe you paid it off with marital money and you have a case there. But from what I've
Mm-hmm.
seen from lawyers and from judges, 99% of the time it's going to be separate. So if you have
Yes.
student loan debt, you're going to be stuck with it.
Probably so.
Okay, so we've gone through so much information. So I kind of just wanted to narrow it down like, okay, if I'm getting ready for divorce tomorrow, what do I need to do? Find out all my assets and debts, right? Value those assets and debts, which we've talked a lot about. And now we got to figure out how are we going to divide them. And that's what Angela and I really do. We figure out all your assets and debt, we review them, we talk about the good, we talk about the bad, the tax consequence, can you afford the home, all these question marks, and we come up with a deal where we're splitting things up to a 50-50 or 60-40, whatever the equitable distribution is going to be. So this is what we do for our clients. We work the game plan, we do it based on finance, and then we get your lawyer involved to make sure that from a legal perspective, it's good as well. Okay, we're gonna jump. We could talk about this for literally, I think, 2 days,
All
alimony
night.
and child support.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to get across the main points because, by the way, we're gonna do a Q&A. I see all the questions. We're gonna try to get to them as fast as possible. We're almost there.
Yep.
The alimony. What are the main consideration points? How long are you married? The longer your marriage, the more chance you're going to get a longer amount of alimony. So over 20 years, over 30 years, you're going to get a longer amount of alimony than someone who just was married 5. Your need ability to pay. You need to show that you need alimony. If you say, okay, my salary is 50 grand and my budget's 50 grand, and then you go ask for 30 grand in alimony, are you going to get it? No, because you are not showing that you
Mm-mm.
actually need it. You're showing that your budget is covered by your salary. So this is
Right.
why a budget is so important. It's in the financial affidavit. Don't just wing it. Work with Angela and I to put your financial affidavit together before handing it in to make sure it's appropriate. You also want to show that your spouse can pay you. So you want to show that they're bringing in their income, and after taxes and expenses, they can pay you 6 grand a month. So these are both things you need to show, your need and their ability to pay. And then lastly, age and
Right.
health can be a factor.
Yes.
If you're disabled, those kinds of things can really be a factor into alimony. So what are just some quick tips? And again, there's a lot here that we work with our clients on, but what are just some quick tips when it comes to alimony? A COLA rider. In some states, you can get a cost of living adjustment rider. This means they add on by inflation each year onto your alimony. So your alimony is growing over time. Why is this important? Your expenses are growing over time. Eggs, 20 years ago were maybe $3. Now they're like 10. right? So everything goes up. Why should your alimony not go up with it? So a COLA rider is one thing you can argue for. Another thing is insurance. How do we protect the alimony? You have to understand alimony is not guaranteed. Your spouse dies tomorrow, no alimony. Your spouse gets disabled tomorrow, it might be a reduction in the alimony. Your spouse gets fired, oh, no job, can't pay you alimony. There's a lot of reasons alimony can end. The ways to protect yourself around that is one, life insurance and disability insurance. And we walk our clients through that. Another thing to
Mhm.
understand is instead of asking for just a monthly benefit, why not to try to get a lump sum, especially if there's assets? If it's me, I'm doing everything possible to get it up front. Because again, my spouse can die tomorrow, my spouse can get fired tomorrow or disabled. So anytime you can get lump sums when you are negotiating divorce, go for it. Because having the
Mhm.
money up front is really the best way to go about it. You can take the money, now you can go do what you want with it. Temporary alimony. You want to jump into that real quick?
Yes, so be careful with temporary alimony, especially we have clients that get in a hurry. They're just like, oh, I mean, I don't need to ask for all that documentation. I just need temporary support. I need temporary support. And they want to rush it. A lot of times a court will look at it, and if temporary support is awarded and everybody's like still alive when it comes to permanent support, and everybody seems to have been getting along okay, financially, they're going to just keep it the same. So you have to be really cautious of setting a temporary amount that's too low, thinking, oh, this is just temporary, I'm going to fix it. It's much more difficult to get it increased. It's easier for a judge to be like, well, they seem to be living off of this, so let's just keep it the same. So that's a word of caution on temporary. Go through all the same steps for temporary as you would permanent because it is just as important. And then
So
another thing I wanted to mention on the lump sum is if you're a person that you are going to need alimony and child support to qualify for a mortgage, like you either want to desperately keep the family home or you're going to sell and buy something different and you need to show an income stream. In that case, you might want to negotiate a portion of it at least to be monthly so that you can show an income stream
true.
or work with us on a different way to there's ways that you can take it, a lump sum, put it into a trust account, set up distributions from the trust to yourself through like a family trust. So there is creative ways to do it, but I just wanted to point out that if you will need that support for to qualify for a mortgage and that's your goal to own a home, whether it be your current home or buying a new one, be sure to work with us on how to structure it before the divorce is final because I have too many people who run into it and say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that, I didn't do it, and now I can't do a mortgage." So you could do like half in a lump sum, the other half to be paid out over 5 years, something like
Yep,
that. We can get creative and work with you, but that's again where you need to be working with a financial professional, not just your attorney, who can help you work through those hurdles.
exactly. Child support, I mean, most of the time you're gonna be going by the guideline in your state. You can literally search your state and you can put child support guideline and you can put your numbers in and see what it comes back with. This is going to be by the guidelines. Now, can you negotiate outside of this? Of course you can. Like I know in Texas, Angela, we've talked about a few times, like, okay, the
Mm-hmm.
max child support is X, but if you need extra parenting care, you might be able to get more on top.
Right. So like in Texas, child support is capped. However, you can say, okay, I need the cap in child support. However, he makes so much more than me that he should pay for daycare or he should pay for private school or he should pay 100% of extracurricular or out of pocket medical instead of us splitting it. So, regardless of the state, even if the guideline says one thing, there's always other points to negotiate, like extracurricular, like out of pocket medical, and those sort of things.
And just by the way, because you have 50-50 custody, does not mean that you should not get child support. It only matters
Never.
about the difference in your income. If there's a big difference in your income, you're looking at child support. And you want to
Yes.
calculate what are the expenses for the kids, especially if they're going to be with you more, because you're going to have more expenses.
Yes.
And lastly, we kind of talked about tax implications. We talked about business valuations have tax implications. We talked about selling the home can have capital gains, selling brokerage accounts can have capital gains, not doing a quadro could cause a tax consequence. So again, these are things you want to understand as you're splitting up the assets and figuring out what you want. Keep in mind though, alimony is not taxable, right? And child support is not taxable either. So just keep in mind that if you're getting 4,000 in alimony, you're getting 4,000 in alimony. It's not taxed.
Right. And on that, I just want to piggyback off that because I saw somebody make this mistake recently is do not, for example, if someone says, your spouse says, okay, I'm not going to pay alimony, but I will pay you out over 5 years, a property settlement type thing, or I'm going to pay you out your division of the assets in 5 years, something like that in lieu of alimony. If you do that, if it's not called alimony, spousal support, or spousal maintenance, it's going to be taxable income. Property settlement income is taxable. Notes payable income is taxable. All those things. You need it to be written. Do not accept it written in a different way. I had a client today who said, oh, he said he'd pay me out over 10 years from off of some assets or something like that. And it'd be called a property settlement note. I was like, no, 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 don't do that. Like, because it does make a big difference if it's taxable. So again, make sure her attorney in that case thought it was a great idea. And so that's just an example of why you need to make sure it's written in a way that it's not going to be taxable income, because that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. So a lot of people are like, okay, Marissa, you sound like you know what you're talking about. You and Angela, we've gone through like so many different things in an hour period, and this is just like touching the surface of what Angela and I know together after working so many divorce cases. But a lot of people ask, well, how do I know if I need you? So one reason you might need us is if you have a spouse and they're spending a ton of marital money on things like a new partner, gambling, drinking, addictions, investment losses. Angela and I have completed many waste claims. Our highest waste claim, what was it, 250,000 we won back? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Expensive
And
girlfriend.
that was on a new girlfriend, yeah, with travel and
Yeah.
everything. So if you suspect that your spouse is doing something like this, you can file a waste claim. You can say they're dissipating our assets. I want half back. I want a third back. This is something Angela and I can help you with. If you have a pension, you need Angela and I on our team. We need to evaluate, figure out how to negotiate it, and find out the true value. If your spouse has stock options, stocks, RSUs, NSOs, these are so tricky. And it is so
Mhm.
confusing to understand how these should be included into alimony or should they be split for assets. If you've got a complex situation like that, you should definitely be talking to us. If your spouse owns a business, you're going to need more experts. It's just the way it is. You're probably going to need a CDFA, a lawyer, and a forensic involved to figure out what is the true ownership of this business and how should you get paid out. If you're going through high conflict that or someone who is a narcissist, I know that's a um term that's thrown around,
Trigger
but
word.
trigger word. They tend to be analytical in the numbers, right? And so we need to come back with thoughtful numbers as well, not emotion. And if you just don't understand finance, you don't understand your options, should I keep the home, sell the home? Can I afford the home? What are my mortgage options? What are my options? That's what it comes down to. And I had a prospect call yesterday, and at the end of our call, the lady's like, my attorney has never given me any of these
Same.
options in the 30 minute that we just went over. You need to know your options. It's your life. It's your divorce. It happens one time.
Mhm.
I'd not be relying on one person to push you one way,
Right.
right? So you need to do your due diligence. You need to have multiple experts on your team and understand what your best course of action is because you can't go back. And if you do want to go back, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And
Right.
Marissa, before you go into your next spiel, I just want to
Mhm.
touch on this because we've gotten so many questions. The difference between a CDFA and a forensic accountant. So many people have asked that question in the Q&A. So forensic accountants are going to look into hidden assets. They're also going to look at like income for business evaluations. They can find hidden income that's coming through or flowing through certain businesses and entities. A CDFA, we're going to look at the overall picture and then give you the implications of proposals and settlement proposals that you can give to your spouse. So, those are the differences, and you might need both.
Yeah, forensics
Right.
very narrowed in on like, okay, I'm gonna try to find this specific money. Where Angela and I are very objectively out. How is this all gonna work out? What is the best way of going about us? And then we get more into the detail. But a forensics, you're usually hiring for projects a lot of the time, like a business evaluation or like, hey, look at
hmm
this account. I think they're sheltering money overseas, things like that.
One thing I want to point out on that same line is with a forensic, most forensics, at least the ones that we've worked with, they charge hourly. So it's similar to an attorney where they're going to charge you like a retainer and then an hourly amount. So one way that if you do need a forensic in your case and you're working with Marissa and I, we are going to share our information with the forensic. So if I've looked at, let's say your husband is self-employed, and I've gone through and I've researched what I've done an income analysis, basically looking at business tax returns, figuring out what he makes. Is it personal expenses being run through? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to share all of that with your forensic, which is going to save you money in what you're spending with them as you're doing a business evaluation. So it's not, it is that you might need to bring a forensic on, but it's still beneficial that you worked with a CDFA as well, because we can cut some of those hours out that you're going to be billed for.
Yeah, and we get on with our clients, by the way, on the attorney calls, on the forensic calls, on the
Mm-hmm.
CPA calls. Like we are the quarterback kind of like running the show, saying like, what do we need to get this done?
Right.
And that's where our
Exactly.
consulting package comes in. So what do you get if you sign up with us? So we have a flat fee. We don't believe in retainer. I know a lot of people in the
Yes,
divorce market are charging
they
by
do.
retainer, which we honestly could because we have a lot of clients, we have a lot of demand. But in transparency, I like keeping it flat because I know that you're getting charged a lot of other places. And we're generally here to help you. We want to help you. We want to bring money back in your case. There's almost no cases that we haven't made up the 4 grand in some way or another through just
Mm-hmm.
simple things, like simple catches that the lawyers are not catching, right? So,
Right.
what is included in our package? One, we'll help you fill out the financial affidavit if you need help with that. We'll create a net worth statement. What are all your assets? What are all your liabilities? We review all your financial documents before you need to get them to your lawyer. So your lawyer doesn't even need to do that, and you save thousands of dollars. We're going to talk about the family home options. I'm going to put you on with Angela. Can you get qualified for this mortgage? Can you get a HELOC? How much income do you need if you want to keep this house? Right? Budget review. It's important to show your need for alimony and child support, so we go through it. Post-divorce
Mm-hmm.
financial planning. I am a licensed financial planner. I have another business where I help 400 people through retirement planning, investment planning. And that's important when you're considering your divorce because your lawyer is not going to think about you post-divorce. They're going to drop you and move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Angela and I are going to be here. We're going to be like, hey, this is how you're going to split the accounts. This is how we should think about the taxes. This is how we should invest for the future. We need you to have X amount in income for this to work. We need your budget to be at X. We're going to help you through all that. Angela's going to help you get your mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pension evaluations. If you got a pension, we can help with that. Alimony and child support calculations. This is where we're really helping show what is your need and can they pay, and then providing that as extra evidence to your lawyer to negotiate the alimony and child support that you want.
Right.
And this is just touching the surface. I mean, there are so many things we've gotten involved with marital and separate property, evaluating stocks and RSUs, looking at tax returns. We look at it all right?
Mm-hmm.
Pay stubs, businesses running personal expenses when they shouldn't be. So it's a flat fee. If your case takes 2 years, I'm on it 2 years later.
Right. And I've seen a couple of people ask, like, how do you know if you get me or Marissa? We work together on all of our cases. Our team is on your case. So it may be like Marissa said, she may be working with somebody and then they say, well, I want to see if I could, be qualified for a house. And she brings me on a call. I'm working with somebody and their investments are complex. I'm going to bring her on to figure out the best way to divide them up. You always have access to both of us, and there's no extra charge for that. You're always going to have the whole team available to you if you sign up for a package.
Yeah. And we do have recommendations on lawyers as well, because obviously we're working with a lot of lawyers. And we do have
Yes.
forensics as well that we really like working with that we think are more affordable.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of people in our
Mm-hmm.
wheelhouse to actually refer who work with us as well.
Yes.
So right now, by the way, if you were to go on public and sign up with us, if you go on like my Instagram, you go on my TikTok, you go on my website, it's 5,000. It's 5,000 to the public. There's also a payment plan. It's a little bit more for the payment plan if you're paying the payments over 4 payments. But right now, if you're on this webinar and you're like, you know what, I need these guys on my team. I need to know my options. I need to understand the finances better. We are giving a 20% off discount for people who do sign up. If you sign up within 48 hours, you're going to get the 20% discount with a code. Lindsay, can you throw the code in the comments so they all know what it is? You also get an email with the code, and only you guys know the code. The public does not, right? So this is on sale to those who have attended our webinar. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm not really sure if this is a good fit, or like I saw so many questions run through, which we're going to run through in a second. Um, you can book a call with us. And Lindsay and Elisa, if you could drop the call link. If you book a call on tonight's webinar, we lock in this pricing for you. So we'll give you the code so that you can get 20% off going forward. Even if your call is a month from now, 2 months from now, we'll lock in the pricing as long as you book the call. So a lot of our clients, who are now clients, booked a call. We had a conversation. They're like, yep, we need you on your team. And then they went forward with the payment. And they got the discount because of it. So I would urge you, if you have questions in your mind, you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to jump yet, book the call.
Right.
If you're just ready to go, book the package. We get started right away. My team sends you a list of all the documents we'd like to start reviewing, and we usually in 1 to 2 weeks are on a Zoom call. So we work quickly. We're there throughout your entire divorce. We're a team. Again, you're getting financial expertise, mortgage expertise, and divorce analysis expertise. And then we've got a lot of partners we can go to and always ask questions if we need. So this is just a flat fee. Everything's included, and it's worked out really well. And then we don't even drop you post-divorce, right? Because a lot of my clients are still continuing to work with me post-divorce. And Angela, they're going to her to mortgages. They're
Mm-hmm.
coming to me like, Marissa, how do I
Right.
invest this 401k? How do I get a quadro? How do I do all these things, right? So we help you even post-divorce as well.
Yeah.
And so what is the point of having us on your team? It's really a second pair of eyes. Managing your lawyer. So many people don't understand. You need to manage your lawyer. Half the time they're not going
True.
to answer. Half the time they're going to send you in off directions that don't make sense. Angela and I will keep them on track. We've said this a million times. Lawyers know the law. We know finances. We help you understand
Right.
all your options, make educated financial decisions, and negotiate a game plan. And ultimately, what is our goal? To bring more money into your case. And we've done that successfully over time. We're bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars back into cases because of our expertise.
Mm-hmm. It makes a big difference. Attorneys, again, like we like attorneys. We're not dogging attorneys in any way, but just for example, tonight, Marissa and I, or today, Marissa and I had a call with an attorney and our client, and the attorney told our client something that we both knew was inaccurate from a financial standpoint. And so I didn't call her out right there on the call, but I was like, I'm going to send a follow-up email and be like, actually, here's the IRS guideline on this, blah, blah, blah. It would have cost our client money if she would have trusted the financial advice that her attorney gave her without us being involved. I'm going to tell her, obviously, the opposite so that she can get the savings. But that's where it comes back into everybody just needs to stay in their lane in terms of, I'm not giving out legal advice, number one, because it's illegal, but also because I don't know the law like an attorney does. I didn't go to law school. They didn't learn finance in school in most cases. And so we need to work together as a team for you to make sure that you can negotiate the best settlement for yourself.
Yep. And now we've hit Q&A.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to some of these questions. We try to get as many answered as possible because I want to help you guys. And we want to make sure that you guys are setting yourself up for success. And so we're going to go back to questions. If you have any new questions about our package or anything like that, feel free to throw them in the comments and we'll kind of go rapid fire if that's okay.
Yes.
I'd like to book a call and send questions up front. You can do that. When you book a call, there's a comment section where you're like filling out information. You can throw in your comments. Are you able to tell us if you've worked with our attorneys? Yes, we can. Can we help in Canada? Yes, US and Canada.
Okay, so no, so it's always a flat fee rate. Even though, I mean, and sometimes I will say, sometimes it seems like it's not complicated. I've had clients say that before.
And
And then
then it
once you start
is.
looking in the, and
Yeah.
you start looking in the bank statements, you're like, what was that wire out for that or this or that, and all of a sudden it becomes more detailed than you thought. So, um, yes, we are able to help in Canada, US and Canada, not anywhere else. Like we're not, European or anything,
Yeah, and listen, we're
but we
not
can,
forensics where we're going to be like tracing to figure out
no,
hidden assets, but like just today, Angela and I got on and me with a lawyer and we're like, hey, there's these plan documents that this person has RSUs and NSOs, so why hasn't he handed us over NES, NSOs, or RSUs? Does that make any sense, right? So we will dig in to be like the tax returns to see if there's something we're missing, the plan summaries, all the
hmm
things. If we can come up with any hidden assets, we will let you know.
right. Let's see, I have on to the next.
It's never
Yeah.
too late. I gotta say that.
Mm-mm.
Angela and I've had clients come up to me 2 days before mediation being like, please
Same.
help. And
Right.
we've done
Right.
things to help. So it's never too late. I really think that even at the last minute, there are things that can be beneficial to your case. So if your case is coming up in September, October, November, we can definitely help. Can you estimate future
Yes.
RSUs? Yes, we do an
Yes.
average income analysis. Do you deal with parents with special needs? Yeah, I do a lot of that. I do a lot
Same.
of trust planning,
Mhm.
with special needs kids to protect the money.
Yes, crypto, we do crypto. Absolutely. We also work with your attorney on helping them understand that if they're not handing over their crypto statements, that they can be subpoenaed, and help work through that process. So, crypto is becoming more and more prevalent. We also, say along the lines of crypto, we always say, hey, get PayPal, get, Zelle, Venmo, Cash App statements activity. So we go through those and look to see again, are we looking for hidden assets? Are we looking for unusual activity? Those kind of things. Um,
Yeah, we pick up cases halfway through and 2 days before they're due at any time,
yes,
or way before, a year before someone's even filed. It
yes,
doesn't matter.
yes.
I
Sometimes we do
also
have somebody who's like, I'm not even sure if I'm going to file yet, but I just want to gather up all the information. That's fine. You don't have to be at a certain stage in order to talk to us.
Go ahead,
Someone
Lise.
asked also if we can work with both spouses if they're willing to cooperate with each other.
Yes,
And yes,
I
we
did that
can.
this morning.
But
I had a
yeah.
mediation.
If you guys are
Yes.
willing to get on the phone together and disclose both of your assets and debts and be forthcoming with everything, then yes, we can work with both of you.
Yeah, like this morning, I have a couple. The husband like threw up his arms in the air. He's like, "We made no progress with lawyers. I'm about to give up and just file and go the legal route for 2 years." I got them both on this morning. They're like, "Wow, this is the most progress we've made in a while, and I think we can come to a conclusion." So sometimes you
hmm
just need a different perspective with a different expert to push it forward. And again, how motivated are your lawyers and mediators to push things forward? Not as motivated as I'm going to be because I want you to get the money in your hands like yesterday so we can figure out what to do with it.
Right. And somebody asked if the package broken down to hours. It's not. It
No,
is, we don't, like we said, we don't work hourly. We don't do retainers. It's a flat fee package. So yeah, there's some cases that are done in, 2 months and we're like, wow, that was really fast. And there's others that have been 3 years, not kidding. And they're still going on and they're still
correct.
with us and we're still with them. So it's not set on, okay, your time's up or like you're off, no extra charge for phone calls and
Yeah.
Text, we do obviously have a contract that spells out, you know, process to respond, those kind of things. But
I think Angela, you broke up for a
you are,
second, but yeah, she's saying we have a contract that just, we stick to
we
business
can,
terms. Like we've got 48 hours to respond. Those kinds of things. They're very generic and pretty much across the board
yes.
standard. If you have all your documents ready to go, I mean, we can be talking to you in 2 weeks. Um, Gray divorce, if you're going through a gray divorce, book a call. Do we have a forensic accountant? Not who's associated with
Yes.
my team, but I
Amen.
have
Amen
a
on that.
forensic that we love who's pretty affordable and can do any state. And then we get on the call
Yes.
with her to even give her all the information so she can tell us, is this worth going through or not?
We do have a list of documents that we
We
can get.
do.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. I was making sure I wasn't still cutting
Yeah, I
out.
can hear you.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, we do have a list of documents that generally, just to give a quick glimpse of, if you sign up for a package, we send you a Trello board, which is like an organizational board, secure, that you can upload your finances to. There's also a lot of resources on there, like a list of questions to ask your attorney, a
Mhm.
list of documents you need to request, things like
Yeah.
that.
And listen, if it's too much burden to re-upload your documents, we can get it from your attorney, no big deal.
Yes, for sure. Gray divorce, somebody asked, is basically, it's not a set age limit, but it's basically referring to people 50 and up.
Hmm.
Sadly, I would be considered a gray divorce. But even though I dye my hair, but no, a gray divorce, they usually are talking about situations where kids are grown. You're not really dealing so much with child custody, 50-50, extracurricular, those kind of things. You're dealing, but you are typically dealing with more significant assets and more things like pension and 401ks and retirement accounts that are more significant than a younger divorce.
If someone retires, the alimony, if it's modifiable, can be relooked at. Yes,
Yes.
which
Mm-hmm.
you need to plan for.
Yes. Activities, child expenses. So yes, we help with that in terms of the budget. Like Marissa was saying, during your financial affidavit and you're filling out your budget, we do help and look. Sometimes I'll look and I'm like, wait, you have $50 a month for gifts. What about Christmas? And they're like, oh, I didn't even
Hmm.
think about that. Or so we're helping you think about things. Obviously, we're not going to like falsely inflate your budget, but we also don't want you to be too conservative. Sometimes I have clients who are like, look how budgety I am. Like, my budget's so clean. And I'm like, you don't want to be budgeting right now. Like, you want to
You need to
be
live your life.
realistic. This is the lifestyle you want to live. And no, I don't mean like the life that you can't afford. But what you're used to living, your current standard of living is kind of what you're plugging in there, because if you get your hair and nails done and you have in the past, it's no problem to put that on your budget because that's something you would like to continue to happen. You're not falsely inflating your budget. But if you leave it off trying to look good for your attorney, that's just going to hurt you in looking at creating your need and all of that. So that's why it's so important to have us look at it with you to make sure you're not inflating something that you could be called out on, but also that you're not
Hmm.
underestimating something that you want to be, that you need to be higher.
529s are usually not included in division as they're stated for college. But a lot of times, parents will just put money in a general account and be like, oh, this is for college. Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one thing. And then also, Angela and I help a lot with looking over the 529s. What can we do going forward to make sure each parent is contributing to the 529s and that we're going to be ready for college? So, yes, those are all things we dive into.
Yes. Child support longer than 18. So yes, special needs. Like Marissa said, we both deal quite a bit with special needs children, and it is sometimes different than normal
More
or the
expenses.
traditional.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. More
So, and
expenses.
beyond
Yeah.
18 years in a lot of cases, because In some cases, especially higher needs, they aren't going to be leaving at 18 and going to college or being able to be independent. And so a lot of times we'll see, I've even had cases where there's not an end on the child support because that child is not ever going to be 100% independent. So yes, again, that's a situation where you definitely want to work with somebody who knows the ins and outs of the special needs category.
We have a lot of military
And
cases as well, so I will say
yes, a
that
lot.
we're pretty
Yep.
familiar with
HSAs,
military, the
HSAs, that's
TSP, the
somebody.
pension.
I've seen a couple
Oh,
people asked
HSA.
about HSAs.
Yeah,
That is an asset, and it is something that's so easy to hide too, because
yeah.
an HSA is through their employer, so it's contributions through. It's not just like a regular statement that you're typically going to see. It all comes through your employer, so that's something we look for when we're digging through. We look at pay stubs. You can see it if someone has an HSA based on their W-2. You can see it on their pay stubs, things like that. So we're going to look at that. If there is $20,000 in an HSA, a lot of people hide money by racking up their HSA because it's easy. It's an easy asset to
It's
hide.
easy to miss.
So yes, you would exactly, and you would be entitled to a percentage of that.
VA loans, Angela can help. You know a lot about VA loans, right, Angela? Oh, you're breaking up.
So yes, and when we can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Hello. Okay. When we were talking about assumptions, all VA loans are assumable, just so you know. So
Mhm.
if you are dealing with a situation where you have a VA loan, just know it is assumable. There are special things you can do. Again, work with an expert to tell you how to do that. Don't go refinance a VA loan if you don't have to, because you probably have a low interest rate and they are all assumable by definition.
If your spouse is purposely lowering income, look to get a vocational evaluator that can
Yes.
prove what they could be earning in the marketplace based on their experience and where they've worked in their past salaries. This has been really helpful in a lot of our client cases.
Yes.
What happens if you know, like they're lying about accounts you have that they have? Subpoenas. You know, a lot of lawyers for some reason don't love going to
I
subpoenas.
know. We
Angela
can't
and
figure
I
that
love
out.
going.
I know.
Yeah,
We're like, go to the subpoena.
we're like subpoena, subpoena. Because, why file a motion for them to get a slap on the wrist when you can just get what you need in your hands?
Yes. Somebody said, do you repair reports my attorney can present in courts and negotiations? Yes.
Yes.
We both can be deemed as an expert witness and provide reports that they can submit to, sometimes to a mediator, to a court, whatever the case may be.
Someone wrote
Something
subpoena.
that,
Yeah, yeah, like
yes.
that.
Hi, Vanessa. Yes. Um, what about foreign
Yeah, if
investments? Yeah.
if spouses take out debt in their name, but it's during your marriage, yes, it can be marital.
Yes. Sadly. Okay, somebody asked, what do we talk about in the consultation? So a lot of times it's it's going to be general information. Obviously, we've got 30 minutes. We're not going to be like going through the, 2 years of bank statements and things like that. We're going to give you as much general information as we can related to your specific situation. Do you own a
Mhm.
business? Okay, let's go this route. Are you a W-2 employee? Let's go this route. We're going to give you as much basic information we can as to we think we could be helpful. I will be honest, I tell people, and I know Marissa does too, there's times I'll get on with a client and they're like, we're both W-2 employees. We have a checking account, a savings account, one 401k, and a car. Do I need you? I'm like, you don't need me. Divide by two on the 401k.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need me. If you have any complexity at all, and sometimes you don't even know if you're complex until you talk to me and figure out, but not everyone needs us, but a lot of people do. And so on that call, you can kind of figure out, is this something that would be beneficial to me? Or can I get as much information as I need? Sometimes today I had a call with this wonderful lady, and she was like, I have my first attorney call this afternoon at 2. can you help me ask, what should I ask? What do I need to bring? What do I need to ask? What do I need? And then she said, if I determine after this I need you, can I call you back? Absolutely. That's when you reach back out and say, yes, now I'm ready for the package. So sometimes it's just informative. What do I need to ask my attorney? What do I need to get scared? Things like that will help you prep for an attorney call if that's what the 30 minutes
Yeah.
need
Or
us
even if it's just you want to
down the
go over
road. So
your,
need in that 30 minutes is what, but it's
or even if you want to go over the home options, should you sell, should you buy, can I afford
mhm,
it? All those things we can get done on the 30-minute call. But again, to get
yes,
into the nitty-gritty, to win money back into your case, to work with your lawyer, to be on your team and help you through all the aspects, that's where the consulting package is going to come into play. But again, if you're questioning, hey, not sure, book the call and we can figure out on that call, is it a good fit for you or not? I mean, listen, Angela and I are working a ton of cases. We're here to generally help. I really mean that.
mhm.
I know Angela and we both tend to actually give too much. And we have to pull each other back and we're like, wait a second.
Yeah, true.
But we're not out here trying to make 100 grand off each case just to make 100 grand. We're out here to help. We generally want to help you. I want you to succeed. I want you to get the deal that you deserve, a fair deal.
Mhm.
And then I want to help you post divorce and make sure you continue to live life the way you want to live it and that you and your kids and your family is all good. That's why we're
Right,
here, right?
right. And
And
you're,
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and that you're not one of the statistics that I'm sure all of you see that people broadcast out about how many, women after divorce fail financially and all that. Like it is one of my personal missions to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think with the education and knowledge that we can give, that it is easy to prevent that from happening with the right, knowledge and steps of what to do. Uh,
Yeah, for some reason you need to talk to us sooner, like there's something kind of immediate, email us.
yes, yes, we'll
I'll
figure something out.
Yeah, I'll put our email in here. My team will get to you. Again, we like to work really fast. We like to make sure that you're getting everything, all your needs answered. And, a lot of times your attorney, you don't want them to be a sounding board. They're going to charge you $600 to do it. If you got a question, you want to come to Angela and I and say, what do you think? Should I even go to my attorney with this? And then we can be like, yes, that's ridiculous. Or no, you should actually bring that up. That's a good idea. Right? So you don't want to be running to your attorney for everything. It's going to cost you a lot more.
Right.
Someone asked how long the discount will last on the consulting package. It's only going to last 48 hours unless you book a call. So if you book the call, you lock in the price.
Right.
And there'll be an
Mm,
email going out with our call link, by the way, if you signed up. And you'll get our call link, you'll get our consulting link. And yeah, we look forward to meeting with a lot of you. I really enjoy the 30-minute calls. It's kind of like problem solving for me and figuring out what is the best path for you. And so, I look forward to the calls. The calls are 125 bucks. And that's really just to cover our time to be there. I'm sure with all the 30-minute calls I've done, I've gotten so many people more advice than they're paying for the 125 because I'm literally telling them like, "Hey, here's how your retirement could look like."
everything.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what the housing situation looks like. You can't afford the house. You can afford the house. I mean, even with having
Right.
limited data, we can have those conversations. How do we have time for everyone? That's why we have a team.
Right. Somebody asked, oh. Yes, we do.
So there's me,
Real quick, I want to
Angela.
say, because I've seen several people ask this, is it true that we're, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Angela, you keep lagging. Am I lagging? I don't think so. But
No,
so I think
it's
between
probably me.
me, yeah, we've got Angela, we've got my brother who's a financial planner. Elise is actively getting her CDFA. We've got Lindsay. We have two other assistants in the background. So, all combined, there's a good seven of us managing all the clients, and making sure that we're respond. I mean, our response time's kind of crazy. we tend to respond very quickly in our box, and everyone is monitoring that box. And if there's emergencies, we take care of it.
Right. One question I see several people have asked, is it true that receipts can be pulled for things like paid on a credit card, like to prove dissipation of marital assets due to alcohol abuse? 100% yes. And that is what we do often is waste claims. So it could be alcohol, it could be, I was going to say strippers. That sounds so bad, but I mean, we've seen that. It could be, OnlyFans. I just
It
went
can be a
straight
lot
to
of different
strippers. What's
things.
wrong with me? Anyway, it could be a lot of different things, but it could be girlfriends. It could be, so one of the
Escorts, yeah,
250
someone
waste
had
claim we were talking
escorts,
about.
yes.
Yes. So the $250,000 waste claim we were talking about earlier, her husband had told her, my client, he had a secret credit card and a secret bank account, and those were never to be asked about. Well, guess what? In a divorce, secret credit card and secret bank account came out. All 2 years worth of statements, which was full of flights, first class, hotels, luxurious jewelry, purses, the whole thing. So that pulled credit card statements, all of that. If they're not handed over in discovery, they can be subpoenaed. So the answer to that question, and beyond just alcohol, anything waste related, the answer is yes.
And as far as like net or income of clients we're working on, it's all over the place. A lot of stay-at-home moms who are earning nothing, and then I have clients who are earning millions. It's all over.
Yes.
And same with asset levels, with the
Right.
types of assets you have. We work with $1 million clients. We work with people who have
We've got
200
30
grand in
million,
their.
and then we've got like, oh, I've got debt, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a replay we're gonna send out. So you'll all
Yes.
grab that as well. If you missed anything, obviously we went over a lot of good stuff. So go back to it. I hope this helped. I hope you found this valuable. Again, we're here to help. If you haven't booked a call, that's the best way to go about this. We can hear about your individual situation, give you some personal advice, and then tell you if we need to work together further. And yes, we do lump sum calculations for alimony as well. Yes.
Yes.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Yes, thank you for everybody who
I'm
joined.
glad it was
And like I said,
informative.
yes, it was a lot
Good
of
luck, everyone.
information and it was, yeah.
I like that. So much info. Yeah, there's so much info. And you know what? We're learning stuff every day, Angela, right? We're like, well, there's a new
Yes.
thing to add to our list. If you book it,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
can
we do. We learn
reschedule.
things all the time. Yes. Yes, you can.
Looking forward to my
It
call next week. Awesome.
happens.
And if you guys have any additional
Good.
questions, you can
Yes.
always
And
email our box too. So it's gdr@getyourdivorceready.com if you have any additional questions, or if you just
Neat.
need answers to how to book a call or buyer consulting package.
And if you need to get in sooner, like I said, if there's some kind of
yes.
emergency situation going on, email us.
Yes.
What
Right.
is your
Because sometimes if you
IG?
just look at the schedule, oh, get divorce ready.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
I'm throwing it
Instagram, is
in
that what,
there.
yeah. Okay, good. I was going to say, I thought it was at get divorce ready.
All right, everyone.
Perfect.
Well, we hope you have a good night. Email
Thank you
us
guys so
if you
much.
need, yeah, email us with any questions, concerns, and my team will get back to you, okay?
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.